This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
I can't wait for that little mini figurine to change. I've been trying to change it all day because I look like a baby face on there. Like I can never go back after this, right? Welcome to the Good Neighbors Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Preston. Today we have a good neighbor with us. It's Lisa Hutchinson from Your Wellness, Your Way. How are you today?
I'm great, Sean. Thanks so much for having me today.
Are you enjoying some of that sunshine that's out there today? I just had a quick break between our last guest, and I didn't want to leave my deck. I had a hard time getting it back up here.
I bet you did. It's absolutely gorgeous out there today. And I know as soon as we're finished, I'm heading down to the lakeshore to enjoy our view and this weather and have a nice walk down around the lakeshore. So
phenomenal.
Yeah.
I had to double check the Weather Network app. 16 degrees out there, feels like 15. I'm going to take my dog for a run in the trails for the first run of the year. So
nice.
Okay, so why don't we dive into it? Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Your Wellness, Your Way started out really as health coaching. And I went after retiring from teaching, which I did in June 2022. I decided there is way too much to do in the world and too many good things and good fun to be had. So I went back to York U and did a postgrad in health coaching. And I'm also a professional musician and have been in the world of yoga and mindfulness for about 35 years. So all of these things were kind of swirling around the healthy lifestyle coaching, the music, the mindfulness, and I stumbled upon sound therapy and sound baths, and I just fell in love with it immediately. I said, oh, this is kind of who I am, and did a very deep dive into a study of sound therapy. I went to Spain back in the fall and did a beautiful 1-week intensive after 4 months of being online with a group from Denmark. And it's a huge area of study. And I'm really excited that I've taken the dive into it. And already in the short time that I've been doing sound therapy, I'm getting so much positive feedback. It's tremendous. I'm so excited about it.
So, okay, let's peel back the layers to the onion here. That's not a topic that typically you would kind of run into in your day to day. When we're talking about sound therapy. So, if I didn't know anything about sound therapy, how would you kind of explain that to your average Joe out there?
Oh, absolutely. It is a branch of yoga called Nata Yoga. So it's been around for as long as yoga has been around, a couple of thousand years. It uses the theory of everything in the universe is based on frequency. So it's not just the sound that we can hear, but everything is vibrating in the universe. And through using different frequencies, we can affect how the peacefulness of our body. There's been lots of peer-reviewed studies done about how sound and frequency affects the nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system specifically is activated through sound, and relaxation is just a byproduct of what happens when we get into the zone. So during a sound bath, when you're listening to the different frequencies that come from the crystal bowls and my voice, it will activate that nervous system response. And most people that have had a sound bath say that was the most relaxing thing that they've experienced in a very, very long time. So that excites me a lot, that we can go from somebody that is, anxious, having huge stress responses, and an hour later, they're just like, oh, what just happened? That was amazing.
So when we're talking about, you use the word a sound bath, and then, I'm hearing the words yoga, what does that look like? Am I, in a pose and, you're doing your thing, or am I on a table? Like if it was Reiki, what does that look like?
Well, it can look like both of those things, actually. So it's interesting that you say that. Typically, say I partner with Moto Yoga, and I partner with other yoga businesses around town. And in a sound bath setting like that, everybody's laying on their yoga mat and they're in the posture called savasana, which is just basically you're laying on your back in corpse pose for the entire time. So it's very relaxing. You're not required to do anything other than lay there and breathe. Don't stop breathing, please. It is nice. I have also partnered with yoga instructors in that they take us through 7 postures, each one designed to match up with the 7 chakras of our energetic system. So while I'm playing the bowl that corresponds with that frequency, the yoga instructor will be putting you into a posture that also supports the activation of that chakra. So that's kind of a neat thing when we have a yin yoga coupled with the sound bath. But typically what I'm doing is just creating this environment where if it's in a group, we call it a sound bath, where everyone's just lying on the floor. And then if you're coming to me for private work, I do have a treatment table. So it's in it. And I run those sessions slightly differently. That's where I bring in more of the health coaching piece.
Okay.
And really customize the treatment to the individual person.
So what would it, I'm always like to try to put myself in other people's shoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what are my indicators for me as a human being where that's going to trigger me to say, I should go investigate this. This is something that I need, or that I should explore this avenue based off of this.
Mm-hmm. Because it is a holistic therapy, you can come at it from different angles. So it could be just purely physical symptoms that you're feeling like tightness and tension in your physical body. Normally, those symptoms are usually coupled with emotional or psychological tension as well. So if you're having stress, anxiety, you just find you're having a little bit more trouble self-regulating. That would be a huge indicator as well. And then there's the spiritual aspect. If you're just looking for more inner peace, a way to explore your inner development, that's kind of the third arm. So those things come together very nicely in that the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual are being addressed in a treatment.
And what are some of the stuff on the coaching side that you typically will dive into clients? Is it pretty kind of, is it specific? Is it very broad?
It starts out broad and then becomes very specific because we work on an individual basis. The plans that we come up with come from the client. So it's things that you've already been doing in your life that you can do more of, or conversely, things that you're doing that you maybe need to do less of. So depending on what the lifestyle behavior is, we build in a plan as to how can you get more healthful activities in your life and decrease the ones that are maybe taking you away from your goals. So it's basically goal setting is built into it as well.
I'll book my appointment. 100%. All right. So, you mentioned you were a teacher before. You kind of briefly mentioned it, going from teaching and having these different things in your life, but maybe elaborate for us a little bit, talk a little bit more about the music, side of it, and how all of this really kind of came together in your journey to where you are today.
Mm-hmm. I was an elementary school teacher for 30 years. And I mean, it's wonderful that lately in the last 5 to 10 years, we have music specialists that are in the elementary schools now. I mean, it's just so fantastic. It makes such a big difference. I've always taught my own music in my classroom. And probably the last 2 years of my career that they had a specialist come in. And I was like, no, but I like doing that. I want to keep doing that part of my job. So I would collaborate and I would run the choir still and help out with ukulele club and guitar, things like that. So I always had a foot in music, even when the specialists came into the schools. I have my own band that I have, like I'm a jazz musician and I also have a rock and blues band. So, I've played around town and so that's always been a part of my life. That's how I met my husband, is through music.
Okay. I was going to ask, is he also musically inclined?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
So, and you'll hear me downtown on the British Arms on a Sunday afternoon playing with Joe Huron and his jazz trio. He has me as a guest in there on a regular basis. I'll probably be in by the end of the month, I'm sure. Yeah, so I love wearing these different hats where I can express my creativity, and it's a great way to be part of the community here in Barrie. I've met so many people through music that it's really lovely. So this marriage of, I working in the human services industry my whole career of helping children, be the best versions of themselves they can be, and working with families, and my own personal interest in yoga and meditation, coupled with the music. It's just, I'm having such a great time.
And that's what it's all about, right? If you're having fun doing something that you're really passionate about, obviously being very passionate in the educational sector, but now getting an opportunity and doing what you're doing, I can see it oozing out of you that you're happy doing what you're doing, and I'm happy for you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so can you tell us, when it comes to sound therapy, I've been really curious to ask this question. What kind of myths or misconceptions do you get from people that you're coming across and kind of going through the motions with?
I think maybe the link towards things that are more esoteric, like mystical almost. I come from an academic background, so I tend to look through the lens of science and, what's the data, what kind of studies and research have been done to prove that this works. That's where I'm coming from. There are other people who take, different paths and approaches to sound therapy. So the whole kind of voodoo end of things, my husband is like, are you serious? Isn't that kind of like voodoo-ish and stuff? I'm like, no, it's very science-based, honey. Come on. So, there's just, like I said, different lenses that you can view the therapy through. And it's been around a very long time, but I love how there's more university programs that are looking into the sound and frequency aspect, not just the music part, but what's happening on a cellular level when we're exposed to these different frequencies. And to me, that's really cool. I like that sciencey stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of, most people are starting to figure out, if you're watching the show, I talk about it often. Like, I am a bit of a nerd, when it comes to video games, but I'm also, I geek out over that science stuff from time to time. My significant other's big into rocks. She's a rock nerd.
Oh, right on.
But anything science, health related is something that humans have been exploring for a long time. And especially since we got into the digital age with the access to technology and, trying to figure out, those diet fabs, those exercise programs, what's the optimal nutrition I need for my body. But then there's this, not just what we eat, but like what we experience and the mental health side of things. And now getting into the fact that, like, who would have known that vibrations could affect you on a cellular level? Like, that's some Star Trek shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny. Yeah, sorry, I had a thought and it just escaped. Keep talking, Sean.
But just like, the back in that science stuff, like it blows my mind that, we're like, it's a thing, that people are even like thought to look it up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And there's so much out there right now. When I started, like I said, having this deep dive in, I thought, well, I'll just see what's at the Barrie Public Library as a starting point. And I had 20 books immediately. I thought, wow, 20 books on sound therapy. You throw in a little quantum physics there too, as well, because it does overlap into that realm. And then when I started looking online for, who's offering training, and there's university programs, it's really amazing how substantial the body of science is in the area. But it's nice to have, you're talking, I know what it was, you're talking about the use of computers and technology in our lives. And I've had a couple people say to me, you really need to do record yourself and put this out online. And I said, yeah, but it loses that human element. And part of the whole vibrational piece is when we're talking or using microphones, it usually cuts us down to pretty much one root tone and tries to get rid of all those overtones, so that really helps the clarity of our microphones. So you're missing out on all those, we call them sonic vitamins, that happen when you're listening to my voice. It's not one clean tone. There's lots of things happening, overtones happening around it. So you're getting a lot more nutrients than you even know you are. So between the bowls and the different frequencies happening in my voice, there's kind of a barrage of frequency um, coming at you during a sound bath.
Oh, very cool. I'm definitely going to have to book a session with you and experience that. It's one thing to hear it, and another thing to experience. So if anybody's curious, I think they should take some advice from me. I'm going to definitely book myself in and check this out. And then we'll have to have you on the show at another time and then go through those experiences. I think that would be
Oh,
kind of cool.
I think it would be very cool, Sean. I'd look forward to that.
So, okay, you mentioned some things that you like to do, passionate about what you do, but things that are fun. You mentioned them, but maybe tell us a little bit more on some of those things that you like to get out there and do for fun.
We are so lucky here in Barrie that we live on this gorgeous waterfront. And I like to take advantage of that as much as I can. Just walking around the lakeshore is, to me, that is fun. Maybe it's my age showing now, but but I'll also throw my kayak in
Oh,
and do a
okay.
paddle. Yeah, so I love to kayak. We have an old vintage camper that we take out in the summer. We do the provincial parks. So
Nice.
during the pandemic, we got on board with the let's get an old fiberglass trailer and fix it up. So that was a good project to do during the pandemic.
I
And
like the camping thing. I got friends of mine. I live down in Florida. They try to come up once a year. We try to go down once a year. Pandemic gave us our longest break since we've been together as friends. We didn't see each other for almost a 2-year period, but we really do make the effort. And of course, camping down there versus camping up here, entirely different, let alone the things that'll kill you down there in going camping. But they're going to come up this year, and we're going to try to head out to a provincial park and do something. We won't be roughing it. Where we'll have the cars with us.
nice.
But I grew up going to a trailer park out in east side of Aurelia there, the fishing, the camping, the whole
Nice.
bit. It's just it's a great way to get out in nature, and experience what we have. Like I just saw on I don't know if it was on the Weather Network app or where I saw this, but the trees per capita, like all the trees in North America, a large bulk of them not only come from our province, but come from our entire country. And then, down in kind of like that Midwest area, it's such an important piece to the place of where we live in the world. But being able to get out there, that's another thing that goes hand in hand with wellness and being able to disconnect, and connecting with the earth is a real thing.
Absolutely. Yes. And I look forward to being able to do a sound bath outdoors. That's something I have not done yet, but it is on my list.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that definitely for me would be something I'd be pretty interested in, is getting out in the nature and doing something like that. For sure. Okay, so you mentioned to me, I'm changing up this question a little bit here.
Okay.
Usually we go through hardships and people experience them. And some people may be a little bit more fortunate than others to not necessarily run into as many large, challenging things within their life. But as you mentioned, that's because of the mindset and having a positive mindset and seeing the glass half full. It seems to me that, there are things in the world that you can't control. It's just, that's a thing. But if you could stack the deck in your favor and try to avoid some hardships in your life, it seems to me that you've been able to accomplish that by the way you carry yourself and the mindset that you have. Would you be open to sharing with the listeners about that mindset that you carry?
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying earlier that I feel very fortunate, just being born in this time and place, and I guess into this body, that I've had so many privileges. And I'm at a place now in my life that I feel like I want to try to give back as much as I can. And there's wonderful charities here in Barrie, which I'm hoping at some point I can mention, because I think every time we do a sound bath, we give a portion back to a charity in Barrie, because there's lots of people that have to struggle continuously every day. I mean, I was definitely not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Don't get me wrong there. I had to pay back all my student debts and everything when I came through the academic system. And I struggled. I was a single mom for a while, and that was tricky. So I know what that feels like to be on a very, very tight budget. I guess most recently I've had a bit of a health challenge in that here I am, the health coach person, and I found out in December that I actually have heart disease.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was a real shock to me because I kind of pride myself on being active, watching what I eat, living a healthy lifestyle. And so to be told that, this runs in your family, I was like, no, I don't care what runs in my family. I can overcome any challenge. But unfortunately, some things are genetic. And so I've had to really take a closer, very fine-tuned tooth comb look at my diet and my whole lifestyle to even tighten things up even more. So again, a challenge that for me, it was kind of almost embarrassing to find out, like, how could I have heart disease? I'm a healthy, active person. And so, yeah, I've had to struggle a little bit with that and kind of re-looking at how I'm eating. But to me, to go from not eating mammals for 35 years to eating now no animal products whatsoever. So I'm on a completely plant-based diet now to try and get a handle on this heart disease stuff.
Plant-based is becoming a very real thing. I just watched on Netflix You Are What You Eat. And what was interesting about it is they took twins because they're genetically the same. So it makes the study the less variables when it comes to comparing between one person to another. They put one on an omnivore diet and another one on a plant-based diet.
Mm-hmm.
And what got me really interested about it was I'm trying to remember the word for it, but it's the fat that's around your organs.
Visceral fat?
Visceral fat,
Yes.
that's the word.
Yeah.
Significantly reduced it in one. So I don't know how much they were working out. I think maybe 4 or 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
But they lost 35% visceral fat.
Well, I watched that same show on Netflix, and as a result, I went down to Toronto and did the DEXA scan to find out what's going on with my fat. Because when I walked into the cardiologist, the first thing he did was kind of look at me and go, "But you don't look like a person with heart disease." I'm like, "I don't feel like a person with heart disease. What's happening?" So when I did go down and get the scan done, I was surprised at how much visceral fat I actually am carrying. And so for me, that is a focus. It's kind of able to hide it under loose shirts and things, right?
Right.
But so it's neat that we have those metrics out there, those ways of measuring, and then you can really hone in on what do I need to do to get as healthy as I can be.
Yeah. And it's becoming something that's a little bit more accessible and more well-known. They still have a long way to go with it, in my opinion, but I'm also with somebody who had to change their diet as well for health-related reasons. And, I think it's more we'll have fish still, we'll have eggs,
Mm-hmm.
but trying to reduce even my personal intake on animal products and not realizing till you watch that show that I think they threw the stat was 80% of our global health problem is because of the cows.
Absolutely. And you think about, we were talking earlier about our beautiful country, and here in Ontario, how many trees we have. And that's not the case in the Amazon now. They're completely destroying it to raise cattle.
Yeah.
For this, it's seamlessly kind of endless desire for meat products. So there's, for me too, that's always kind of in the back of my mind as someone who loves the outdoors and the environment. What's happening to our planet as a result of our eating habits?
Yeah, it's I'm partnered with Berry Green Living because obviously believe in what Andy's doing there and with their charity. But why don't maybe you mention some of those charities that you're partnered with?
Yeah. Glowing Hearts Charity is one that's very near and dear to my heart because it does mostly serve children and their families. I had an opportunity to do a sound bath with the children in the choir, which was an amazing experience. I think I loved it even more than they did. But I had wonderful feedback because you're going into, typically I work with people that would go to yoga, right? So kind of that age group, mostly women. So here all of a sudden I'm working with like 8-year-olds to maybe 15, and I just wasn't sure how they'd respond, and they loved it. And it was such a affirming situation for me as well to think. And then I'm also doing work at a seniors care center here in Barrie, doing sound baths there. So I've, from 8 to probably almost 100 years old. So it's really neat that way that I'm getting the opportunity to work with so many different people. But Glowing Hearts, I love so much. They do such wonderful work. And I'm just partnering up with Gilda's Club as well. I'll be going in there to do sound bath with Gilda's Club.
Yeah, we're partnered with both of those charities as well too. So
yeah,
they're out there in the community. Sarah and Aaron specifically doing absolute phenomenal work. So I couldn't agree more with you there.
Yeah. So I feel very blessed that I get to come into contact with so many wonderful people with such great energy and such giving, open hearts. It's just a beautiful place to be.
So what's one thing that you wish that the listeners knew about your business?
I think because it is kind of an unusual modality, like most people understand what massage is and even Reiki, that they just give it a try for themselves. Because to talk about it is one thing, but to experience it is another. And, I will be honest and say not everybody that comes through a sound bath loves it and wants to come back. For some people, they just say they've tried it and it's not for them. But I would say 98% of the people that have come through come back. And that is very exciting for me. Just to be able to provide someone with a little peace, either, peace in their heart or their body or their mind. I think it's fantastic. So just give it a try.
Beautiful. And if they wanted to give it a try, what's the best way that they could reach you?
On my website, yourwellnessyourway.ca. And I have a booking link right online there. And I also have my upcoming sound baths that I've partnered with people in the community like Moto Yoga, like Jess B. The two of us got together and did something at Nook last month. And Stronger Together Family Fitness Studio. I've been doing sound baths there as well.
Nice.
So I'm getting out into the community and love working with all of the other health promotion businesses that are in Barrie. The more the merrier. I think it's just wonderful to be able to collaborate.
No, I'm loving it. Not only do I know those businesses, but they're clients of mine. So
it's perfect. Wonderful. Small world, right?
Small world, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. Great to get to know you as well a little bit, because we've seen each other at some of those networking events. And I think the listeners got a very good, solid understanding of not only what you do, but who you are, the goodwill that you're putting out there. And I would urge you to continue doing it. And we will support you as much as we possibly can in getting help to spread that wonderful message out to people.
Oh, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate that. And thanks for taking the time to have me on your show.
No worries. Anytime.